one of the most important and I think striking philosophical ideas ever put forward, and for which I will be eternally grateful to Socrates for, was when he said that no one can harm another, and that only oneself can do that to oneself. And of course, that's a very hard and difficult idea to accept, but if we give it a minute, if we maybe try to see what he meant by it, I think it really does have a big, practical, and very, very real impact on our daily lives and generally on how we view the world. And when Socrates says that no one can harm another, that only oneself can do that, of course he's aware that every single day, even right now, there are millions of people, billions of people impacted by physical violence and hardship and sort of disabilities of any kind that are objectively caused by other people. But so many philosophers, including Socrates, Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, ask us, what really is the true you? Are you your foot? Are you your hand? Are you your body? Because when your foot and your hand disappear, when they're taken away from you, you are still you. And Epictetus gives the example of the foot stepping into mud. You know, someone on a big journey, they're obviously trying to get somewhere. It's an important journey. It's to better their life. But during the journey, at some point, they have to step into mud. They have to do that. They have to endure pain. And of course, the body, that's how it signals discomfort. It's with pain. It says, I don't want this. But we, our mind, tell the body, no, you're going to do it anyway. Because you might not understand why. You can't understand why. But I do, and I know, and I'm telling you, you need to do this. And Epictetus says, if the foot knew, it wouldn't complain. And so clearly it's not the foot, it's not the body in general, even though of course we need the body to live. It's really the best part of ourself, the most important part, the highest part, the mind, our rationality, our thoughts and ideas. That's the real me. And of course in ancient Greek Hellenistic philosophy, you hear, and of course in many religions, you hear that the only true good and the only true bad is the moral good and the moral bad. And the moral good and the moral bad is completely up to you. It's fully in your control. It's not in the control of anyone else. So while we are absolutely correct in pointing out that anyone in the world could come up to us and physically harm us, and that is exactly the point, no one in the world can force us to be morally better or morally worse. You know, people can force us to lie, for example, but it's only a very indirect connection. It's because they're threatening our body or they're threatening our family, or the other way around, they're bribing us with something. But it's still in my control to accept that bribe or not. It is not a physical direct connection that anyone has to my honesty. And there's certainly many examples in history of that where people were threatened with death, were threatened with their entire family being subjected to violence and who knows what else, or again the other way around, were attempted to be bribed with amazing sums, and they stuck to their honesty. They said, I will never speak those words. You will never hear me say that. And again, it was the mind over the body. It was the mind saying, this is more important. This is more important than my body being intact and me surviving and me living on. And so no one can force you even to speak words, let alone be a generally dishonest person, or an unfair person, or a violent person. And even if they did somehow, even if you did consent to lying, even if you took the bribe, you were threatened and you wanted to just get it over with, just lie and get out of the situation, even then, no one ever, with any amount of effort or influence, can make you believe a lie. Epictetus again gives the example of, if someone forced you to look out the window and when it is daytime, and truly believe that in fact it's nighttime, you could do that for no amount of money. They could threaten you with whatever they wanted. You could tell them that, oh yeah, it's nighttime outside, but you could never, ever truly within yourself believe that. They could never make you do that. And it's only the mind itself, if at all, that can achieve something like that. And same with justice. No one can force you to be unjust. No one can force you to be unfair. No one can force you to not give someone their share. And on the other way around, no one can force you to goodness. No one can force you to be fair when you really don't want to be. As soon as you're not observed, as soon as you know you can get away with it, you'll be unfair, you'll be unjust, you'll lie, you'll cheat, you'll deceit. And Seneca, again, when he talks about having to go to exile, because he had to go to exile, he was condemned to go to exile, and he wrote a very long letter to his mother, consoling her. Imagine he is consoling her, even though he's the one who has to go to exile. He says, nature has made it so that the best things in life are also the ones easiest to get. It's for all the luxuries that we sweat for. And he also said, into exile, you can always take your best possessions, which are the virtues. You're going to have to leave all the objects behind, all your clothes or your money, your house, your everything, your country, your friends, every single thing that is out there in the physical world. But the best things, the things that made you lovable to those people, the reason why your friends and your family admire you, they want to be with you, they want to be your friends and your family, presumably would be for your qualities, your personality, your kindness, your sense of fairness, justice, your honesty, your friendship, your love. And who can possibly take those away from you? No one. You'll take them into exile, you'll have them now, and you'll have them forever, no matter how much time passes and wherever you need to be, and however poor or rich you are. And these are the best things in life. However, these are also the things that we can lose, but again, not because of someone else's influence, but because of entirely our own. If we become a violent, rude, cheating, deceiving, unjust person, that's all because of us. And this is what Socrates is pointing out. He's pointing out the best part of ourselves, the only ones worth anything in the first place, are also the ones that cannot absolutely be taken away from us. And it's this shifting of our worldview from the external into the internal, because like we would object in the beginning to what Socrates says, we would say every day millions of people are harmed. They lose their homes, there are natural disasters, there are wars, there's violence, there's crime. How can you say that these people are not harmed? But again, it's not them that are harmed. It's their bodies, their possessions, the people that they know, the objects that they possess. Those are the ones really being harmed, and those are not us. Yes, we have a connection to them. Of course we have a connection to our body and to our loved ones and to the objects that we have, to our house, anything. But it's a connection that is not internal, and it's certainly not a connection that we are in control of, and that's the whole point. As I've asked you many times before, how can happiness be something that can be taken away from me? Imagine living in a world, which many people do, in which happiness can only be given to you, and it can also at any moment, for no reason, with natural disasters even, without anyone else being involved, be taken away from you. That's not happiness, that's anxiety. Because we're just living every day fretting that it will be gone any minute due to an endless list of reasons. And also that we can only acquire them in the first place if someone else just affirms us, if someone else allows us to have it, if someone else grants us these things. Only then can we have them. And then, like I said, once we do have them, well, from the first second on, we start worrying about losing all those things, because they are open to be taken away at any moment. It's true. And that's not a happiness, that's anxiety. True happiness is possessing the things that are of the highest worth and that are fully in our control, both to acquire and to lose. And this is why Socrates says that no one can harm another. Because, again, you can harm my hand, you can harm my house, you can harm my other possessions of any kind, you can take my money away, but you cannot harm me. He says he can strike me, he can kill me, but he cannot harm me. It puts this barrier around us, the physical world, and that's really what the body is. It's a little soul carrying a corpse. That's what we are. We're little minds, little souls, little divinities, little gods, whatever you want to call it, carrying around a corpse, a body. And of course our body can be damaged, and everything that our body needs and acquires, and all the money it wants, all those things can be given and taken. But the true me, the thing that's contained within the body, that animates this entire body, that makes all the decisions, that steps into mud to go somewhere, that knows the journey, it knows the destination, and it knows where it came from, it knows where it needs to go. That part of me is the real me, and that part of me is untouchable. Unless, of course, it wants to be. And really think of it this way, you as a rational, moral person, what could possibly be worse than for you to be a thief? I mean, the justice, the true spiritual law, the moral law, immediately acts on someone. And that's exactly what Socrates means when he says no one can harm another, only one can harm oneself. Is that when you steal something, even if no one notices and even if the law does not catch up to you, you, as soon as you do the act, immediately you become a thief. If you kill someone, you become a murderer. Now think about this. Wouldn't you pay every single cent in your bank account? Wouldn't you give all your money, all your possessions away to not be a murderer, to not have to live with that? To not know within yourself that you have murdered someone, that you are a murderer, and that will never go away, that that's something that you will be for the rest of your life. If that has somehow inexplicably you woke up one day and you're a murderer, if that had happened to you, and if you could pay yourself your way out of it, wouldn't you give every single thing that you've ever owned, that you ever will own? Would you not go in debt for the rest of your life to be rid of that reality? So what's a more severe punishment than to become a murderer, than to become a thief, than to be a liar, a deceiver, and a cheater? And to be all these things that you've never wanted to be in your life. Now, I can already hear some people saying, okay, should we structure our laws this way? Should we get rid of jails and prisons? No, of course not. But I do believe that that should not be because of punishment. Because there is no worse punishment for the thief than to be a thief for the rest of his life, than to be a murderer. Why people should go to jail and why they should be kept from society is exactly because of that, for the safety of society. So that they're put away for as long as we think they need to be away for, that they might have a chance of being rehabilitated, and that we really don't give them an opportunity to do something like that again, depending on, of course, what the crime was. So, of course, this does not apply to civil laws. Of course, all the prisons, all the law courts, they should operate more or less the same way that they do now. There should, of course, be consequences, that's what I mean. But really, what worse punishment is there than to have done the crime? I can't imagine anything worse. And if all these people lived by these moral and spiritual laws, we wouldn't need civic laws in the first place. Civic laws are there for people who would only not commit a crime if they would get caught. If there's a justice system that would put them in prison and would make them pay dearly for it. But someone who lives by moral laws does not need civic laws. There's nothing worse for them than to become a thief and to become a murderer, and for that reason alone they wouldn't do it. They would want to do unto others as they want done unto them. And that's the only reason anyone really needs never to commit a crime, but it's because of people who don't understand this, who don't know this, who don't live by this, that we have these civic laws, that we send people to jail, that we have that whole system, of course. And even if you don't believe, like Socrates that no one can harm another and that one can only harm oneself, still what I think you will take away from this is the internal dimension of everything. That even though you might think that physical harm really is true harm, and that other people do have control over our well-being and our happiness in that way, it at least makes us realize how important the internal things are, all the things that we can give ourselves, how much our happiness really depends on nothing but ourselves. And that the external world, again, if at all, has only a secondary bearing on our happiness. That money, health, and all these things are of course, can be advantageous, but that without the internal moral compass and the virtues that you have, that you live by, that also give your life meaning, those things really are meaningless themselves. Everything external is made good or bad depending on these internal goods and bads. And that's really a powerful thought to live by, and it has a direct, daily, and immense effect and importance on our lives, on how we live life every day and how we look at the world. So that's just what I wanted you to contemplate today as I'm sitting here in the Black Forest in Germany. And it's really wonderful with the little creek running through, and nature is the same everywhere. I mean, wherever you are, get out a little bit, contemplate these things. It's a good time to do it, and just connect with nature a little bit. Sit against a tree like I am right now. And I also want to invite you again to sign up for the newsletter, which is on. You can just go to the website and do that. The link is in the channel description. And if you ever wanted to become a better articulator, a better speaker, a better writer, a better thinker, and a better problem solver, be it out in the external world or inside of you, just like this, on days when you're just sitting and you're thinking about happiness, and you're thinking about the meaning of life, and you're thinking about where you're heading and where you should be going and where you're coming from. If you want to make those things clearer in your mind, if you want to be just more competent in everything that life requires of you in terms of your internal world, how clear you are inside, and how you make decisions, and and really your principles and priorities in life and your ideals. If you want to become better integrating these things into yourself and to articulate them to yourself better and to understand them better. There's nothing better than writing, than journaling. In the way that we do in the newsletters, what we do is we read a Seneca letter, we reflect on it, and then we journal about it personally, privately. No one's going to see it, but you can see my journal entry. And I write them also in a way, as I do these videos, they're not just about what Seneca wrote, they're not summaries, they're not anything like that. They are just my starting off point, an impetus for me to write and think about the things that I want to write and think about anyway. And they're also written in a way where they speak to you, and they're essentially like these videos, but in much shorter and written form that you can at any point consume throughout your day. So I invite you to sign up for that, even if you don't want to do the book club, the letter writing thing. You can just read those. There's also a quote of the week in there. There are reading recommendations in there. Only the most valuable books that I think are life-changing I put in there. And I just invite you to take a look at it. The newest video is always there, of course, just a click away. It's all in one place. And I hope you take something away from it. Socrates has these very striking ideas that take a long, long time to digest and to really wrap your head around it. But they really do have an impact. And there's, especially this one idea of his is one of my most cherished ideas, really, that I live by.